Hello friends, welcome back for Bitcoin Technical Analysis. I'm Rocky Outcrop, this is the Rocky Outcrop channel, and I highly encourage you to subscribe. We do daily Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink and Tezos technical analysis videos released in 4 separate videos just for your convenience. Okay, so welcome to the show, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you're doing really well. All that good stuff, by the way, and big shout out to everybody who's subscribed so far, massively appreciate it. Got my show notes up behind me here, and just keeping that trend going because getting good feedback about it so far. And this is today's, so May the 28th. And remember as well, maybe I should just write this in here so everyone can see it. May the 28th, 3 or 4 days plus. Basically, none of these videos are just in isolation. You can always watch the previous 3 or 4, at least for more information on where we are currently, and depending on how the price action's been, looking at the 24-hour chart here, you can see going back, the whole of this month, that really it's just been more or less the same. So there's plenty of information out there, and all of it's different. And if I just give you a quick brief look at this sort of stuff, you can see all these previous show notes, and I've got tons of information on there. Normally it's pretty much different every day. Oh dear. So if I just go back over to here and zoom in for this one, thanks so much for joining me, by the way, I really do appreciate it. What are we going to be talking about? So start with the bullish chat, why not? Where it needs to be to stop the monthly downtrend will be the first thing we look at, and we'll acknowledge that it's made it up to the 9.5 area, which is good, a good start, okay, and we'll acknowledge as well that we're challenging that triangle. We've come up and we've tested it in a sense, and that's all right, and then we'll come back to this again and look at the bearish chat. So to be honest with you, the bullish case isn't particularly strong until such times as we've gone past yesterday's targets, which you talked about in the video. But anyway, we've come up here, touched right off of our horizontal serrated line, which is kind of nice. Always talk about these things as being zones, as opposed to the exact on the penny thing. Anybody who says, "Oh, I'm a genius, I got it right on the dot, right exactly there to the penny," is just being a bit, mad. But anyway, it came up pretty damn close to that one, and so far, where does that put us? Well, we're still lower than all of this previous price action. We've not made it up to the 9,700s or 800s or 10,000 price points yet, but we have come up and we've challenged at least the top of this descending trend line here. So that's good to see, and you can do 2 things at once. Should we actually test this horizontal a couple of times? If we just take that out of the way so it stops influencing your thinking for now, and just kind of look at this without, well, actually take all the drawings off, and just kind of say, if this area here is going to be a bit of resistance for us, then challenging it once, maybe we'll start to sort of weaken that, and maybe could move up above it, and we'd be looking for that to act as support then thereafter, if that were the case. But, as it stands, we've just kind of come in and around fairly close to this area. But you would be doing 2 things at once, I suppose. You'd be going past the horizontal support line and potentially coming up here. And, we could keep our eye out for fake outs, So maybe it's worth having just a couple of extra scribbles, maybe even on the chart here, just so we can know where the fake outs territory could be. You can imagine it coming up to here as a fake out from this overall, or up to here as a fake out from this overall. And bearing in mind that if either of those 2 things were to happen, then you'd really be looking at just a sort of parallel channel run along the top here, which would be a heck of a lot more bullish in terms of its structure than this descending triangle. But there you have it. Okay, so that's pretty much it, and then we'll go to the monthly chart so that we can see. If I just go back over to the our usual chart here for the monthly, so we can just look at this, and well, this white line, and I appreciate there's a lot of noise on this chart. Maybe I should hide the Gartley that was here. There was a Gartley on here, by the way, previously. Stuff like various good analysis across time. That's all been very good, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, the monthly downward trend line that we've got on the go that comes back all the way from up here, all the way down the way. from sort of December 2017 all the way down, getting all of these previous highs the whole time. So, so it's a very significant line, and we're above that just now. And there only are a few days left in the month, so it's like that end of eBay auction time, like this business time, you could say, that we're getting towards, where you could be looking at saying, hey, look, all it takes is, a minimal effort in a sense to maintain the prices here compared to where they, compared to having to come up to this point, as we've seen during the month of May, where we've come from 8,600 all the way up to where we are now at 9,400. So, and that all these positive sense things, and that would be quite good. You'd have this big positive candle here, which you could call an engulfing bullish candle, and then this one here, which would be higher than the previous high. And together, when you look at these candles together, not that I'm going to put it on a 2-month chart or anything, but in the sense of that, these two candles together engulf these two over here, and that's kind of good and positive and all the rest of it. Now let's just be honest with ourselves as well and realize that there's plenty of time left in the month, even though, well, there's just a few days. And anyway, let's just dive back over. So we know where this is, let's just wrap up this section by saying we want to see the prices from the bullish point of view stay above 9,350, let's call it, so that we can have that close higher than the previous one here, which might start to undo this continual downward monthly trend line that we've had in this entire time, albeit you could move this up. But what I'd be hesitant to do about that is, I want to point out the fact that there's been very few higher highs, but just, in terms of this monthly chart. But let's temper everything. Not by moving this up, but just by looking to the left here and remembering that we did come up above the previous high before. The highs which were set in, say, November or so, or whatever, that previous one. In a sense, when we put in this close here in January. However, it was a little bit rich to say that overall you are still looking up towards the 11K area to say that you're truly putting in a higher high. This candle here does give us the convenience of being able to say that this one that we're in right now is potentially breaking this overall trend, but we've been down this road before, have we not? So let's just temper that ever so slightly before you start filling up your rocket ships. Let's dive back over to the notes and to the 24-hour timeline so we can see. I could have seen the notes and where are they? Excuse me, by the way, about this. Obviously, I'll take a bit of practice before I get used to the fiddly nature. Okay, just stop. Right, we'll just look at it from here. Right, so that's that. Now on to the bearish chat. Okay, so thanks very much for sticking with me through the bullish stuff, and let's just take a look at the bearish side of things. And why would you want it? By the way, what's the point in separating these things out? Well, it's good to have the two sort of different perspectives laid out. We can see, looking at all that bullish chat, how a bull would be thinking in this period of time. Like, yes, okay, great. All we have to do is go a couple $100 more, and things are starting to look rosy or whatever. Or all we have to do is close here, just keep the prices here for the next few days, etc., etc. So there's all that chat, and we've covered it. Well, then onto the bearish side of things. Okay, so we've got our 9.5 potential shorting target. And just in the sense that if you were looking at these support and resistance lines, I really would like to be able to move the graph, please. Right, thank you, TradingView. If you're just looking at this in terms of this line here as being where you could have easily taken a relatively low risk, and by low risk what I mean is easy to manage risk, because it's all very black and white and quite clear for you, and that's what makes things lower risk. Taking away the fog of war is how you manage your risk in a lot of senses. So I'm not a financial advisor, none of this financial advice, I have to point that out when I'm talking like this, just for legal reasons. But basically, you could have been looking at this, for instance, and thinking this is a fairly easy shorting target here in around that price is, say, 9,500, or if you're being a bit greedy, 9,538 on this particular chart. Looking across the board, there's various different targets, but you're looking at like BitMEX, for instance, 9,550. That's quite a nice number for shorting from, and it got there exactly. So anyhow, that's kind of bearish in a sense. That's happened now. So you've got a lot of people out there who were taking profit at this line, as we expected, and the volume continues to diminish off. It's not like we're in breakout territory or thinking about that at all, or even in fake out territory or anything yet. All we've done is the natural order of events. sense, you know. And when we spoke about this a couple of days ago, when the prices were 8,700 or so, we did say that the most bullish outlook that you could look for, really, the most bullish case scenario, where is that in the show notes? Here, descending triangle, most realistic bullish outcome, bearish pattern, but means moving up from here, right? Okay, so like, you know, like that type of chat. So that's the, so in a sense, you've had your sort of, it's bullish, like we talked about at the start of the show. Sorry about this, as I sort of, you know, really don't handle this, don't handle my moving around the chart very well at all here, looking very amateur. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so we've done that, you know, and all of this action here really overall was bullish for somebody who wanted to talk about being bullish in terms of a move from 8,700 up to 9,500, and they were looking at this, and fair play to people doing that, absolutely. And you're looking at a solid, near enough 10% rise up in prices. Who needs anything more? Okay, that's enough to be bullish and to say I'm bullish. If something moves 10%, then you're laughing, right? Am I wrong? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below if you regularly look for more than 10%. But you know, and now that's been done. So like with the momentum and everything kind of dries up at this point, well, we know where we stand, don't we? There's plenty of time left in the month. We're kind of hinted at that already as well. You know, there's you know, anything could happen, and over the next few days, if the prices drop down and they go down to 9,000, for instance, or to this previous low here at 9,250, really any of the clear space in this area at all, then you're looking at being below that monthly trend line yet again, and of course then or below the previous high, etc., and that would just be more of the same in the downward monthly trend. So you know, you've got that. Of course, as well, bearing in mind on the monthly trend, on the monthly chart, things are almost always trending. You know, like you can see that quite easily as very little. Anyway, whatever. Moving on. We're still within the triangle, you know, so there's that aspect. We've not done that. We've kind of covered that already. And the triangle's descending, of course, right? So we know all of that. Things to look out for. So one of the things that we could look out for in terms of just how this is all going, I thought I'd mention during the Bitcoin video, and of course go on to watch the Ethereum one later. I don't use show notes for the Ethereum videos, despite the fact that Bitcoin videos get the least amount of views. I put the most effort into the Bitcoin ones because Bitcoin's the daddy. We all know it after all. So anyway, you could look at perhaps look at the Ethereum prices, you know, so you can look at the technical analysis for that later on, and once I've published it or whatever else. But you could be looking at this area just here and saying, are we going to go for some sort of move towards the upside? And could that, in a sense, be, you know, if the Bitcoin prices and Ethereum prices, if one's leading the other, and Ethereum were to lead it up, then maybe, you know, you could look towards that. So we'll be covering that anyway, obviously, in the Bitcoin video or the Ethereum video later. But that's something that you can look towards for information. Is that what? Right. Okay. So, you know, like that. Perhaps the previous targets from yesterday. So yesterday's video, we had several numbers on here. This section here: 9.5, 9.8, 10, 9.87, 8.5, and of course, like we spoke about at the time, 9,200. Which for some reason I didn't actually bother writing on there. Maybe I should have. You know, so like that, these numbers, these are your horizontal levels, are really essentially is what we're looking at. So you could be thinking about that. Let's get this out of the way. I'm obviously going to have to come up with a neater way of doing this, but whatever, who cares? It's all good. Right, things to look out for, blah, blah, blah. Perhaps the previous target from yesterday. So yeah, so keep an eye out for those numbers, you know. Essentially, if you don't tune into this video for the next few days, then of course, like that's something that you should really bear in mind, and you can be aware of. If you don't tune in for a while, be aware of all those numbers, okay? So then monthly close coming up on a Sunday. Something else to be aware of. Of course, it's quite easy to kind of forget this when you're thinking about things, but the monthly close itself is going to happen on a Sunday, which means the CMEs aren't open, etc., etc. Any volatility that you have there, you know, is the month when it opens up on the Monday, maybe even perhaps tomorrow, because the CMEs will be closing tomorrow, and that essentially is the monthly close on the CMEs. We'll have to kind of bear all these things in mind. I suppose since we're talking about it, let's talk about it. The monthly chart here for the CMEs, you can see we're ever so slightly above where we were before. Keep an eye out for this, I suppose, tomorrow evening. If the prices go down below 9,500, essentially what you're looking at is having an equal or lower high high here on this one, and it's more of the beat goes on. Okay, so that's certainly worth knowing, I would imagine, especially if you're not planning on tuning in tomorrow. Right, back over here again to this. Hope you're enjoying the video, by the way, and you're liking the content. I think that this sort of stuff, by the way, integrates really well with everything else that you're looking at, and it can give you that context, maybe the context you might feel like you're missing if is this one? Yeah, that context you might feel like you're missing if you're watching somebody else who's kind of giving you a lot of information which doesn't sound anything like this, and you're thinking, well, there's got to be more to the story or whatever. You might. I'm not. I don't demand monogamy when it comes to YouTube. You can absolutely go ahead and watch various different people talking about things. But I hope that you're enjoying this stuff, and please do hit that subscribe button, because we put that sort of effort in every day. In fact, by the way, the fact that I use show notes here just lends a bit more structure to it. I'm breaking that structure quite badly now, I apologize. It just lends more structure to the video. These are the sorts of things we talk about all the time in every video. Anyway, whatever. Monthly close coming up on a Sunday, worth knowing. CMEs, blah, 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 of course, worth knowing. CME 50/200 moving averages, or the spot 70/280. If you're a subscriber here, you know what I'm going on about. I'm not going to explain that in detail. That cross might bring volatility with it. Again, going back over to the CME chart here. Oh, I wasn't on the 24-hour, that's why I messed up my thing. Yeah, again, like, need practice, whatever. So, like, this here's coming up. This look at these crosses. Look at the gap between these dots here. This is one of the reasons why I keep it on dot, because you can see, like, it looks to me anyway. I don't know if it's just my visual brain that makes it look like that, but it looks as things are kind of speeding up towards the upside, in a sense that we're really kind of taking on an upward slope here, and this is continuing this way. So we could have a crossover here, and that comes in just at the start of June. You can imagine that also bringing along with it a bit of volatility, even if we do actually close up here on the monthly time frame above this previous one. You can imagine coming in for a high or low could be anywhere down to any of these lines here where we have hourly gaps on the chart. So bear all that in mind. Go back down to the 24-hour time frame, go back to Coinbase, look at the notes, disdain as I can't find them, hit the wrong button, draw a line on the chart that's not needed, zoom out looking for my things, embarrass myself a bit more, and relax. We've been down this road before. Previous times, after rises, a descending triangle has been the precursor for a reversal. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the video now, by the way. Let's just have a quick look at this sort of concept. Here's a descending triangle, okay, and it's after a rise up the way, and that could signal a reversal. At previous times in the past, you could have seen various things like this happening. Now, the previous sort of drop down here, this was a head and shoulders, of course. So as we spoke about at the time, everybody that's a subscriber here was very much a winner in terms of all of that. Looking over here back to the highs that we got in June 2019, though, you can quite distinctly see a descending triangle on the go here, for instance, which eventually broke down towards the downside, and that was after our previous sort of bullish run, So just to say, just so just so you remember, like, we've been down this road before, okay? Even this big spike up here, you could have even said that there was a sort of bit of a sort of descending triangle here, This is not uncommon, right? Okay, great. Covered. And I already know what the last thing is. I don't need to rush around looking for the notes for that one, although there they are there. End on previous targets. That's what I want to do. I want to end on the previous targets. So is it possible to bring up that thing again? Oh my god, I hope you're having a laugh at how stupid I'm being. Right, okay, great. Here, previous targets, like I said before, 9.5, 9.8, 10k, 9,200, 9, 8.7, 8.5. They're the crucial numbers all the way along the way, depending on what sort of time frame you're using, what sort of pattern and strategies, that you're using for your trading. Then, of course, all of that's fairly important. There's things I haven't talked about in today's episode, one of them being the oscillators. Well, whatever, we're still essentially consolidating. Another one being the moving averages. Well, we made it up above the 21 EMA. There's certain things like that. Don't talk about every single thing in every single video. That'd be too repetitive and too long. But I'm going to just wrap it up then now. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can check those moving averages and whatnot yourself. And yeah, okay, great. That'll have to do. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next episode.